Welcome to the Easy Vibes podcast, your escape to calm, uplifting conversations. Whether you're unwinding or recharging, we've got the perfect vibe for you. So sit back, relax, and let's get into it.
Hello, welcome back to the Easy Vibes podcast, where we slow things down, dive a little deeper, and explore the stories behind the sounds that move us. I'm your host, Mark, and today we're going to take a beautiful journey into one of the most expressive, rebellious, and soulful genres in music history, jazz. This isn't just music we're talking about, it's a movement, a conversation, a way of life. Over 23 minutes, we'll explore how jazz was born, how it evolved, and how it continues to shape modern music and culture. So sit back, take a breath, and let's vibe together through a journey through jazz. To really understand jazz, we have to go back, way back, to a time when America was just starting to find its modern identity. We're talking late 1800s, early 1900s, a place of contrast, culture clash, and creativity. New Orleans. New Orleans was a port city, bustling with life, trade, and people from all over the world. Africans, Europeans, Caribbean immigrants, Creoles, all bringing their own traditions, instruments, and rhythms. This cultural stew became the perfect breeding ground for something entirely new. It started with ragtime, a syncopated piano style that had structure but a sense of swing. Artists like Scott Joplin were turning sheet music into something lively and unpredictable. But the real fire came from the blues, born from the pain and perseverance of African American communities. Blues wasn't just music, it was a release. Add in the marching bands, with their brass instruments and military precision, and soon, musicians began to blur the lines between written music and improvisation. That's where jazz found its identity. One name that always comes up is Buddy Bolden, the mysterious cornet player said to be the first real jazz musician. There are no surviving recordings, but his legend lives on in the stories. How he played louder than anyone else, how people danced in the streets when he played. He made music that wasn't just heard, it was felt. And then came Jelly Roll Morton, bold enough to claim he invented jazz. While that's debatable, his contributions were massive. He brought form and composition into the mix. He was the bridge between ragtime and jazz. But perhaps no one symbolizes the spirit of early jazz more than Louis Armstrong. A poor kid from a rough neighborhood, he rose up with talent, charm, and that unmistakable voice. Armstrong took improvisation to another level. He wasn't just playing music, he was telling stories, playing with emotion, phrasing, and pure soul. Jazz at this point wasn't clean, it wasn't polished. It was raw, real, and alive. It lived in the streets, in the brothels of Storyville, in the speakeasies. Musicians weren't following rules, they were making new ones. Jazz spread quickly to Chicago, Kansas City, Harlem, and with it, so did the idea that music could be a conversation, a statement, a rebellion. It was the soundtrack of a changing America. Before we take a short break, here's a smooth jazz tune to set the mood. It's called Melodic Dreams in the City. Easy, mellow, and full of soul. Let it carry you, and I'll be back with you right after the break. By the 1930s, jazz had grown up. The wild, street-born sounds of New Orleans had made their way into dance halls and radio waves. This was the swing era, a time of big bands, sharp suits, and music that moved the masses. At the heart of swing were the band leaders, Duke Ellington, Count Basie, Benny Goodman. They weren't just conducting, they were creating massive, layered musical experiences. These were orchestras with energy. They made music that was elegant yet explosive, structured yet full of personality. Swing was about rhythm. The swing feel was irresistible. You couldn't help but dance. It became the sound of the 1930s and early 40s, giving people hope during the Great Depression and unity during World War II. But just as jazz had rebelled before, it rebelled again. In the back rooms and after-hours clubs, a new style was being born, bebop. This wasn't music for dancing, it was music for listening, thinking, challenging. Bebop was fast, intricate, chaotic at times, and it was revolutionary. Charlie Parker, with his rapid-fire saxophone lines, Dizzy Gillespie, with his bent trumpet and wild harmonies, Thelonious Monk, with his dissonant chords and unconventional genius. These musicians weren't looking to please, they were looking to express, and they did, with raw emotion and jaw-dropping technique. Bebop was about the individual. It was solos, improvisation, and small combos, a rejection of commercial big band sounds. This was the heartbeat of modern jazz. And right there, bridging both eras, was Miles Davis. He played with Parker, but his approach was different. More space, more silence, more feel. He saw bebop's brilliance, but also its limits. He wanted to take things further. This era was a turning point. Jazz was no longer mainstream. It was now art, complex, rich, and often misunderstood, but it never lost its soul. It just evolved. As we ease into the break, here's something with a little sway and charm. This next tune is called Whiskey and Elegance. Smooth swing with a touch of class. Let it take you somewhere warm and timeless. I'll see you right after the break. After the intensity of bebop, the 1950s brought a new flavor, cool jazz. It was restrained, subtle, moody, almost cinematic. Think less fire, more finesse. Chet Baker, Jerry Mulligan, Dave Brubeck. They played with a smoother, more relaxed tone. This was the West Coast sound, thoughtful, refined, and easy on the ears, but never lacking in substance. Then, in 1959, came a seismic shift. Miles Davis' Kind of Blue. This was modal jazz. Fewer chord changes, more room for the musician to explore. It was about creating a mood, a vibe. The notes mattered less than the spaces between them. John Coltrane, part of that same session, took modal even further. His music became spiritual, searching, almost meditative. Albums like A Love Supreme weren't just records. They were statements of purpose, explorations of self and soul. But jazz didn't stay mellow for long. The 1970s brought electricity, literally. Enter jazz fusion. Musicians plugged in and turned up. Herbie Hancock, Weather Report, Mahavishnu Orchestra. These artists blended jazz with rock, funk, and global rhythms. It was loud, funky, and complex, and it divided the jazz world. Some purists hated it. Others saw it as jazz's natural evolution. What's amazing is that even with all these changes, from cool to modal to fusion, jazz never lost its identity. It just kept absorbing, adapting, and growing, always expanding the possibilities of sound. Before we step away for a moment, here's a track that speaks in whispers and cool tones. It's called Soft Melodies. Simple, smooth, and full of late-night charm. Let it soothe you. I'll be right back after the break. So, where is jazz now? You might not hear it on Top 40 radio, but jazz is everywhere if you know where to look. In the 2000s and beyond, jazz has found new life, often outside the mainstream, but deeply connected to modern culture. Robert Glasper is one of those bridges. He blends jazz with R&B, hip-hop, and soul, working with artists like Kendrick Lamar and Erykah Badu. His music feels both new and timeless. Esperanza Spalding, a bass-playing, genre-defying powerhouse, is redefining what jazz performance looks like. She's theatrical, experimental, and endlessly talented. Then there's Kamasi Washington. His albums are big, spiritual, cinematic. He brought jazz back into cultural conversations with works like The Epic. You'll hear echoes of Coltrane and Sun Ra, but also film scores, gospel, funk, and hip-hop. Over in the UK, there's a jazz renaissance happening. Artists like Nubia Garcia, Shabaka Hutchings, and Yusuf Days are mixing jazz with grime, Afrobeat, and electronic sounds. The energy is raw, youthful, and global. And let's not forget how jazz has slipped into lo-fi hip-hop, anime soundtracks, indie games. It's not front and center, but it's there, shaping the mood, coloring the emotion. Jazz today is more inclusive, more genre fluid, and more accessible than ever. The barriers are gone. Anyone with a laptop and a sax sample can experiment, remix, reimagine, and that's beautiful. Because jazz was never about perfection. It was always about expression. All right, friends, before we wrap things up, here's one last burst of joy to carry us into the final stretch. This tune's called Life, bright, bold, and full of that Dixieland charm. Let it lift your spirits, and I'll meet you on the other side of this last break.
I woke up this morning with the sun in my eyes. The moon in the morning, it just looks like a slice. The whole world is yawning with their mouths open wide. And as for me, darling, I'm just here for the ride. They say it's a good life when you get what you want. When the getting is good, when the weather is hot. Well, if it's a good life, you won't know till you try. And as for me, darling, I'm just here for the ride. You smiled with your eyes, and you leaned in to kiss me. I felt my soul come alive. But it's so early when you look at the time. And as for me, darling, I'm just here for the ride.
That's our journey today, from dusty New Orleans streets to sleek London studios. Jazz has worn many faces, joyful, angry, spiritual, experimental. But always, always, it has remained alive. Thanks for spending this time with me on the Easy Vibes podcast. If you felt something today, a memory, a groove, a little inspiration, share this episode with someone. Spread the vibe. And remember, music is everywhere, but soul, that's in the listening. Until next time, I'm Mark. Stay cool, stay curious, and keep vibing.